Welcome to our evening transmission. This is Delhi. Please stand by for our next program.
This is All India Radio. You will now hear comments from the press. The Times of India, in its editorial titled Bitter Truth, writes, in a biting assessment, Ajay Nayak, Election Commission's special observer, reportedly said that Bengal's condition today is quite similar to Bihar around 10 to 15 years ago. In Bengal, the third phase of elections will see central forces deployed to cover 92% of the booths. Earlier, Bihar too used to feel the need for total deployment of central forces. But Nayak reportedly pointed out, change happened in Bihar and now the state only needs 20% deployment of central forces, amounting to greater faith in local police than is seen in Bengal. Politicization of police helps poll violence to flourish with impunity. For example, when a nodal election officer goes missing, this worrying disappearance can be muddied in rumors of personal issues, or electorally motivated murders can be downplayed as suicides. Murders of opposition workers in Mamata Banerjee's Bengal are comparable to lynchings of cattle traders in BJP-ruled states. In both cases, state governments embolden rather than rein in the lumpen elements. In keeping with past form, Trinamool Congress is pointing fingers at the messenger instead of heeding the message. Indian Express, in its editorial titled Terror Next Door, says Sri Lanka's decade of peace after the LTTE's military defeat in May 2009 has been shattered with a diabolical plan to drag the country back into its darkest days. The scale and the ferocity of the attack has no precedent in Sri Lanka's troubled history, one from which it believed it had finally emerged. In the last decade, a generation of Sri Lankans has come of age for whom conflict was history, who have no experience of curfews and emergency regulations or the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Now all this is threatening to engulf Sri Lanka again. According to Sri Lankan authorities, the attacks were carried out by suicide bombers. 24 people have been arrested, and the government spokesman has named the National Tawheed Jamaat as the group behind the attacks. Little is known about this organization except that it preaches a puritanical form of Islam. But it is Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe's acknowledgement that the country's security apparatus had prior information on the attacks that causes more anguish. The differences between President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Wickremesinghe appear to have played a good part in the security warning not being taken seriously. The Financial Express, in its editorial titled What Earth Day, writes, the theme of this year's Earth Day on April 22nd was protecting the planet's species diversity. The theme is a pertinent one considering nearly half of 177 mammal species surveyed in a study by 3 researchers from the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico and Stanford University saw their distribution fall by more than 80% between 1900 and 2015. Scientists strongly believe that the planet may be in the midst of the 6th mass extinction, and unlike other times in the past, this could be largely anthropogenic. Indeed, as per WWF's Living Planet Index that categorizes the causes of decline of wildlife population, 37% of the wildlife population lost in the last 40 years can be attributed to exploitation by humans, 31% to habitat degradation, 13% to complete habitat loss, and 7% to climate change. Current extinction, a paper published in Science says, is 1,000 times higher than what would have been if there were no people. A Duke University study estimates that while nearly 1,000 species are lost every year due to anthropogenic reasons, less than one species a year was lost annually 2 lakh years ago before modern humans evolved. At the same time, another study estimates that at the rate of average global consumption today, we need 1.5 planet Earths to sustain human life, while at the level of consumption in the US, we would need 4 planets. The worst offenders in the consumption and climate change problem, meanwhile, obstinately refuse to change course. The Statesman, in its editorial titled A Voice Silenced, says the murder of a journalist is always hard to bear for the profession anywhere in the world, and the shooting of the 29-year-old Northern Irish journalist Lyra McKee underlines a hideously tormented Easter from Londonderry to Lanka, about which comment will have to await detailed information. That a life has been cut short in its prime would suggest that a Good Friday Agreement, so-called, that was linked in 1998 with the hope of peace is a historically troubled swathe of the United Kingdom, can scarcely be taken for granted.